Peace and Black Liberation. Adibi Bahudi Akwaba. You are listening to Black Matters with Lami Mumia and
Chris.
We are here live at the WEB Du Bois Learning Center, KUAW Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, KC's global community radio station. You're listening to us live on either KUAW.org or the TuneIn Radio app. You also can listen in live and watch the program live on Facebook or on YouTube at this time. I believe we now have a YouTube channel, I'm being told, so you can watch it live on YouTube. Also, I believe the broadcast is going to be there as well. The TuneIn Radio app. If you have any questions, you can email kuaw985@gmail.com. You can also give us a call live on the studio, 816-599-6893. No messaging rates or charges apply. Dollars here locally. We want to thank everybody for tuning into the program. Hopefully we have some constructive information to drop on you. A little bit of everything today, some entertainment, some remembrances, and definitely some current happenings in the African world. Today's dates, May 22nd, 2018, or so they say. Black facts for today. Actually, we want to rewind, or we'll do some of today, and then we'll rewind. We cannot forget the day that passed, Friday, the 19th, which is the born day of our great-grandcestor, Minister Malcolm X, Malik Shabazz. Yep. Omo, I forgot his Nigerian name. He had a Nigerian name. Omo Wale might have been. Was born on the 19th of May, 1925, right up the road in Omaha, Nebraska. Did you know that?
I didn't know that, man. Until the other day.
I remember reading that in the book, and I completely forgot.
Yeah.
When I went to Omaha, I would have definitely looked for his area.
Yeah.
We really think a lot about him. Not only we shouldn't only think about him on his birthday.
Right.
We should think about him often, but it's very important that we remember and keep the spirits. We keep their spirit alive in our actions. So that is one thing we must remember. Black facts for today, the 22nd. The War Department established a Bureau of Colored Troops. This was on May 22nd of 1863. Obviously, at that time, we were in the middle of what was known as the Civil War. There was nothing civil about it. But the Union decided, hey, we're going to organize some of these Negroes and we're going to let them fight too.
Right.
So this Colored Bureau was established eventually. And it's, what the ironic part about it is black people had to fight to get into the army.
Right.
Which is tragic.
And then fight in the army.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then fight and die. Blood just thrown all over the world.
You mean come back and fight some more?
Come back and fight some more.
Yeah.
I mean, we got as recent as the brother dying in Niger. Black men and women have been dying in these so-called services. But they officially launched the Bureau of Colored Troops, aggressively recruiting black soldiers, according to historians, starting today on May 22nd, 1863. Interestingly enough, that's how a lot of soldiers ended up, black men and women, black men specifically at that time, learned about guns, started getting their hands on guns, which was, later on became very useful. Was also today, the 22nd of 1967, we lost our great poet and writer Langston Hughes, known as one of the central figures in the Harlem Renaissance. He passed away on this day in 1967, and on this day in 1948, another Harlem Renaissance poet, Claude McKay, died on this day in 1848. On this day as well, in 1922, we lost George Washington Rawls. He was known as the fighting in the Civil War, and he started working in the mines. Later known for later known for his fighting in the Confederate side of the Civil War. So there were actually some black people who did fight on the Confederacy, and he was one of them, known for that. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and what has really been catching my attention is a lot of the things which we're being presented with as far as news in this part of the world have been distracting. I mean, you could think about what have you been hearing on the news recently? Everything about Trump.
Trump.
That's all they talk about.
Trump, Russia, prostitute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's sex life.
Yeah.
At the same time, black people are being slaughtered across the planet in 2,100 different ways. It is incredible. Something that has really drawn my attention that has not received a lot is the Ebola virus coming up in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, do you remember the last time there was a big scare with the Ebola virus? Remember when that was?
Wasn't that long? It was about a year ago?
Yeah, it was just a few years ago. I believe it was 2014. It lasted for about, a year. It was Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Ivory Coast, I think, might have been affected by that heavily. And I'll tell you this is how afraid Americans are of disease. And it's amazing that people who die the most disease in this world, do not let yourself be tricked into believing that there's another place that harbors more disease than the United States of America. Okay? Like, don't get it twisted. More people in this country are suffering from diseases today than you would ever find in these quote-unquote developing countries. So don't let the place which is supposedly on the vanguard of curing diseases harbors the most diseases on the planet. Do not get it twisted. And I remember the scare that was on Americans' minds when they thought that there was some epidemic. They're always, and that's what's so amazing to me. The Americans, specifically the white Americans, are always terrified and want to make everybody else terrified of their diseases. Now, why do I say their diseases? Because there's credible evidence, much credible evidence that these diseases, including Ebola, we're talking about diseases that affect the area known as Sub-Saharan Africa, including the AIDS virus. And I make a point to, I'm looking for Jack Felder's book on that. And I was speaking with my older brother today, asking him, pointing me in the right direction so I can get Jack Felder's book. But there is credible evidence that these diseases that are in or come from Sub-Saharan Africa were put there. That these diseases were created in laboratories and unleashed on African people. Now, we're going to talk about what's happening on the ground now, but I think it's very important to understand that well, I guess we will start back with what's happening now. So apparently, after the epidemic that occurred in Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and Cote d'Ivoire, there was a vaccine that was created for the Ebola virus. Okay, it was, at the time, it was reported that it seemed like every laboratory in the world was working on this vaccine, and they wanted to help these people, poor African people, get rid of there, which is counterintuitive to everything we've seen as far as the treatment of people in the nations in West Africa, because no one cares about the nations in West Africa. If anything, these nations in West Africa were being protected so that they can continue to be exploited, so that their rubber, their coltan, their bauxite, their chocolate, their gold can continue to be exploited, and that not be stopped because there's too many dead bodies on the ground. But a vaccine was created almost when the epidemic was subsiding. Now, that's the question that I had. I was thinking, like, so what happened to this epidemic? Did it just went away by itself? Like, all of a sudden, you got full-blown Ebola running, raging rampant through these countries in major cities, and then all of a sudden, it just goes away by itself? So that, to me, just seems, anybody who would look at something critically would say, okay, what happened? Why did it go away? Fires just don't disappear by themselves.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
right. And they generally don't start themselves.
Thank you. So there's
a spark. There's a spark somewhere.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so there is a vaccine that has been developed according to the World Health Organization, and they have 7,500 doses of an experimental vaccine. Mm-hmm. So experimental is saying we don't even know if it works. Mm-hmm. All right. What they're doing is they're trying to vaccinate these rings of people. So basically, let's just say I was infected. Okay, so everybody who comes into contact with me, people I know, my family, and you, so they're going to try to contact everybody that I would contact and vaccinate everybody.
Right.
Okay. Right. So they said they vaccinated 6,000 people within 170 days. Now, this is one of the caveats about this vaccine. You just can't walk around with it, okay? It's not. It's very sensitive, according to their reports. The vaccines have to be kept at 60 to 80 degrees centigrade. Oh, sorry, 60 to 80 minus 60 to 80 degrees centigrade. That's at 100 below zero. You have to store the vaccine. Okay. Do you know how hot it gets in the area known as Sub-Saharan Africa?
No.
You can assume it would probably be very hot over there.
Right.
That would be a good assumption.
Right.
Okay, because the areas where this is being done are tropical areas.
Right.
Lush tropical forests. The vaccine has to be kept at minus 100. Do you know any other thing that's that cold?
Now, what is liquid nitrogen? I don't know.
That's a good question.
That's pretty cold. Negative 100. That's interesting, man.
I think liquid nitrogen is, I think it's somewhere like at minus 143. So it's down there.
So in order for it to be that cold, I mean, if it's negative 100, I mean it's beyond frozen. I mean that's brittle. You can break that like nitrogen does.
So I'm not sure. According to the reports by the news sources, this vaccine, what is it called? The distribution lines have been taken care of. So they've apparently said that that's not going to be a problem. Like, it's not going to be a problem even if it's super cold.
Right.
In rural villages,
right.
Super rural villages in Central Africa.
Right.
And just to give you an idea of where the DRC is. The DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, formerly Zaire, it is located really close to the center of Africa. We talked about the Congo a couple of months ago. And remember, I think we were talking about the minerals and the wealth that is in the ground.
In the ground, right.
In these countries, how none of our technology would essentially be possible, including uranium, columbium, coltan, bauxite, rutile. Bauxite and coltan especially are highly, you need those elements to create modern day processors. And the DRC has almost exclusive these minerals in the ground. It's located near the center of Africa. And the history of the DRC, if you're not familiar with it, is an incredible history of Black people overcoming the brutal, despotic white terrorism, specifically from the Belgian government. And now, of course, all of the European governments are on a full-on assault of raiding the resources. But it's located in the heart of Africa. It's north of Angola. If you're in south of Sudan, it's east of or west of Kenya. And it's east of Nigeria. So if you can kind of put it right there in the heart of the continent, and it's an extremely large country. By way of size comparison, and just to give you a size comparison of the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo is the size of Western Europe. Think about that.
Right.
That's one country.
Right.
That's the size of the entirety of Western Europe. The Democratic Republic of Congo
Mm.
is the size of half, or basically it's almost one half of the United States.
Mm.
That's how big this country is.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a small piece of land here.
Right.
It is a huge piece of land. Over 1/3 of the United States would be covered if you overlaid it, on top of the almost. It looks like almost half. You can look at some of the overlays that would occur. So it's a very big country, and a lot of it is rural. It is not. They're not big cities. Of course, this is one of the most ancient African civilizations, and a lot of ancient culture come from there. But it has now been, of course, colonized, and the residents have been subjected to that. So this vaccine that's out is extremely interesting. I think we should pay attention to this. So why should we care about the vaccine in DRC? Well, because the United States government, among other governments, have been in charge of fake vaccination campaigns before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of the latest highlighted vaccination campaign occurred in May 2011 when the United States used fake polios as vaccines to catch Osama bin Laden. Okay. And now in Pakistan, nobody wants to get vaccinated, and polio is running among. Yeah, nobody wants to get vaccinated because they're like, yeah, we know y'all scammed us once.
Yeah.
Why we gonna let you come back with this?
Right. Fool me once, you
fool me once.
Twice.
Yeah.
Fool me, right.
So the vaccination workers are getting killed in Pakistan now because the locals don't look. It's gotten serious.
I don't trust them.
It's gotten real serious and real fast.
Right.
The United Nations had to withdraw the vaccination teams in Pakistan because 9 workers got killed in 1 month. It's not a game. The United States has been implicit in fake vaccination. We're not even going to talk about. We're not even going to talk deep about Depo-Provera because Depo-Provera was the forced sterilization campaign that happened in East Africa, Kenya.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
We don't even have to talk about the forced sterilizations that were discovered, not even the ones that were undiscovered, but the discovered ones in North and South Carolina here. Okay, we're not even going to talk about the indigenous, homegrown, organic peoples known as Native Americans who were forcibly sterilized in the Dakotas here.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so white people have a history of harming people with vaccines. That's a flat, true statement. There have been experimental vaccines specifically used on black people in this part of the world and globally for the past 300 years, since the first quote unquote European vaccine, which was launched in the 1790s. Here's an interesting note, and I don't know. I was very blown away by this. Do you know that Africans have been using a form of vaccine? This is not like something in a lab. Africans have been creating what we now know as vaccines for hundreds and hundreds of years.
I have.
Did you hear about that?
I did. Yeah.
We have been using what, like, the quote unquote virus to create vaccines against diseases. In fact, just only 40 years before the 40 years before the vaccines were introduced, Louis Pasteur and a lot of those crooks came out with their supposed vaccines. And Edward Jenner worked with a group of people who went to Africa, and they found native peoples, native nations in Africa that were using vaccines only a few decades before Edward Jenner came out with his. So the white people, the Europeans, went down to Africa and were moving through the different groups and saw the use of vaccines before it was actually done here. And they didn't even know what they were doing. They didn't even understand what they were really doing. But they have evidence that Africans were using, these are the dominators now, these are the Europeans have evidence that Africans were using vaccines before, and that these groups have been using them for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Well, you gotta understand, most vaccines come from plants. I mean, you take a plant, you go out and you take a plant, you take that plant, take it down and you process it or whatever case, then you can either use it naturally or you can take it and you can add all kind of chemicals and alter it and whatever you're going to do to it and then turn it into, something that's unnatural. That, one process, which is natural, was a slower process, but the healing comes more natural. But the other, which is a copy of the natural, which you get almost instant gratification, but yet it's almost just a band-aid. It doesn't get down to the core.
Right on. And just by the way, variolation, which was known as an early form of European vaccination, was discovered in Africa. A Boston minister, Cotton Mather, received the gift of a Libyan-born slave named Onesimus, who had a scarpox variolation, and he found out that they had been inoculated against smallpox. So they're bringing slaves over, and the slaves had been vaccinated, and they didn't know what was happening. They didn't even understand. And this is in 60. This is in the early 17th century. I'm sorry, the early 18th century, 1706. So, remember the 1300s, Europe got almost wiped out by a plague. Okay. They were almost wiped out by the bubonic plague. Smallpox had been just eating them up alive. They came over and gave smallpox to the indigenous people here. You know what I mean? They didn't have any vaccination against smallpox when they were giving it to the Indians. They had no vaccinations. But we have a history of non-white people being harmed by vaccines. There's a lot of information out there right now that talks about the risks of vaccinations and the inability for Western/white medicine to deal with the fact that these are affecting disproportionately non-white peoples, which, frankly, they just don't care about, and they'll continue to pile up. But yeah, very, very careful attention we should be paying to what's going on in DRC, in Congo, and what is happening, to the people there, how they're experimenting with this experimental vaccine. We highlight that word, experimental.
Yeah.
So you got this fake vaccine going on, and and these people are being experimented on, and with no doubt they're probably experimenting so that they could use this vaccine in the America and in Europe. These white people want protection, man. And
well, you gotta understand also when you talk about the whole, medical, the medical field, it's called medical practice, and what that essentially is practicing medicine.
You're right.
So there is no cure. And let's keep it 100, man. To be honest with you, most of the doctors and stuff, man, they got $80,000-$100,000 bills. They want to live a nice lifestyle. I mean, we could either cure your cancer by using this process, which is probably a little slower, or we can go ahead and give you this instant process that won't actually heal you, but it'll keep you coming back to the dope man.
This extremely, the purpose of Western medicine is to keep you sick.
Keep you sick.
Now, there are actually some societies, there are some civilizations that you would only pay the doctors when you were healthy, and when you were sick, they would not get paid. And that was brought out by Laila Africa. He has that in his books. I don't know if you have heard of Dr. Laila Africa.
I've heard of him.
I think he's based here out of Indianapolis, right down the road. Dr. Africa talks about that. So it incentivizes. Think about how smart that idea is. The doctor only gets paid when you're healthy. So that means when you're sick, what happens to the doctor's money?
Don't get no money.
So he has to keep everybody what?
He has to keep everybody well, right?
He has to keep everybody well.
Yeah.
That makes complete logical sense to me.
Which in turn, a sick society is just that. It's a sick society. You don't want to run around with a bunch of sick people, man. I mean, then actually, if you run around with a bunch of sick people, then actually you as a doctor have failed. I mean, this makes sense. If what I'm giving you, in 3 weeks you get sick, and another 3 weeks you get sick, and something's not right.
Something it shows the failure.
Right.
And I mean the flu vaccine is a classic example of that. You're taking a cocktail of a live virus, some say innate virus, that they're not even sure is going to work.
Right.
And they're open with it.
Right.
They're open with it. So I think, as African people, we need to be a little bit more smarter about what we take we have disrespected African medicine for a long time.
Yeah.
And the Europeans have been going to Africa and getting what we've been doing.
What's funny is I was looking up, we're talking about natural deals, and I was looking, I just kind of looked up the aloe vera plant because I got some for my son.
Yeah.
Some time ago, it was something mixed with aloe vera.
Right on.
And I got to looking at it, and it comes from part of Africa, I think Sudan or whatnot. But I mean, it's a natural plant, and basically what they do is they break it open, and it's got the gel or whatnot, and I mean they do things to get extract the gel out of it. But for the most part, I mean, it's it soothes rashes and irritates skin, treats burns, heals cold sores, moisturizer hair and scalp. I mean, these are just a few. It helps your digestive system.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Yep. It helps your boost your immune system and actually provides antioxidants, along with reduces inflammation. And that's from a plant. That's only one. That's 9 benefits from this aloe vera plant. And that's just from a plant. And I was reading through this, man. Not one place said, "Oh yeah, by the way, the side effects are runny nose, bloody urine."
Man,
you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? No, don't touch anybody. Keep yourself quarantined. Nothing in there said that because it's a natural.
That is incredible. I have never. I mean, I'm no natural doctor or anything.
Neither am I, right.
I do read a lot about natural healing, natural herbs and remedies.
Right.
I've never read anything that's going to say, possibility of stroke, and impotence and erectile dysfunction.
Yeah.
If you feel pain or discomfort, stop using this herb. You know what I mean? Like I've never heard that. Stop taking, stop taking lemongrass. I've just never heard that before. And there is a natural way. You have to understand that the medicine we take has been synthesized. It's synthetic plants.
Right.
They literally are trying to imitate and replicate what is found in nature.
Right.
So they're trying to do it, but they're just going around it and using, as Dr. Africa says, synthetic dirt to create these different synthesized versions of what nature has already produced. They're taking that from what nature has created. Example, opioids come from and morphine specifically comes from the poppy, from the poppy, which is a plant, which you can get naturally.
Absolutely.
But now they take morphine and it's synthesized from petroleum. So think about that.
Yeah.
We were getting the medicine from the plant.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you went and got some black oil out the ground, and you're gonna take that in the laboratory and create you're separating particles to create this new drug.
Yeah.
And you're gonna think that doesn't have any type of side effect on it. That has nothing.
You don't think it's gonna backfire?
You don't think it's gonna hurt you? Nothing like that. You're just gonna drink oil out the ground.
Come on, man. Y'all messing with Jurassic Park?
Man, y'all playing around.
Yeah,
hey, we're gonna take a short intermission here. We're gonna play a trailer from a film we're gonna talk a little bit about later. And we're also gonna talk about some happenings on some classic racism out of a judge out of Florida, and also about some films that are very positive for African people to spend our time. If we're gonna watch a film, watch some of these films. So you're listening to Black Matters here on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom, and we're gonna come in here with this trailer right now.
Você sabia que todo capoeirista tem direito de escolher seu nome novo? Que esse nome é pra vida toda, até pra depois da vida. Já escolheu seu nome?
Já.
Qual é?
Besouro.
Bahia, Brazil, in the 1920s. In the interior of the state, Negroes continued to be treated as slaves.
Quero ver quem é o bom nessa brincadeira de vocês aqui.
É na hora de comer banana que macaco baixa a guarda. Aqui nessas terras tá proibido lutar!
Não sei o que é que eu passei a noite aqui hoje.
Fecha a porta.
One capoeirista was chosen to be their leader and to fight for his people.
Você quer que eu defenda a cidade do Coronel, é isso?
Esqueça de Norá. Você sabe que ela é minha.
A hero born from mysticism, learning to fight with the help of Mother Nature's own strength.
Quem é você? Exu.
Seu corpo tá fechado.
Vamos, besouro. Acorda.
A man ready for war, who became a legend.
Ô, besouro. O povo disse que você é avô agora, né? Avô aí pra me ver. Acho bom você resolver isso logo, Luca.
Não vai ser fácil não, coronel.
E por quê?
Porque ele voa.
Oh, the main is down? Okay. Did you have that film that you wanted to? What film are you talking about? Oh, you talking about a film? That documentary?
Oh, Flint.
Flint.
Yeah, Flint. Yeah.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
What's it called?
I was watching last night.
Flint Town?
Yep. Yeah, man, it talked about how Flint was kind of, booming, man. And then it just showed everything slowly kind of deteriorate. I fell asleep on it, but I'm going to continue to watch. Okay, I think you're ready. Okay. Yeah, but it showed him, man. I was like, wow. Netflix got some crazy shows though, man.
They do.
What we got left, Chief?
Yeah.
Bro.
How much time we got
How
left?
much time we got left? 22 seconds. I'm gonna change my handle to CP Jackson. All right, ready.
See,
Hey, this is Chris. All right.
you are listening to Black Matters on KUAW Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. This is La Mumia with Chris here live in studio.
Yeah, man, this is CP Jackson. Go ahead, bro.
CP Jackson himself.
Yeah, man.
If you're just tuning in, we just listened to a little teaser trailer there of Besouro. Besouro, you've got to watch this. You can actually find the high quality full length film on YouTube if you want to watch it there. It has English subtitles. If you want to watch the English dubbed version where the actors are actually speaking in English, which I don't recommend because they put a lot of trash in when they translate it, and the voices sound silly in my opinion.
Yeah.
You can watch it on Amazon and I believe Netflix as well. Besouro. And man, if you enjoyed Black Panther, if you enjoyed that, I think you would really probably enjoy Besouro. It's a capoeira, which is an African fighting science, a fighting style that was practiced by Africans in the area of the world known as Brazil, and also is practiced on the continent of Africa as well. And it's thrilling. I mean, this movie has got everything. It's got action scenes. It's got like stunt scenes. I was very impressed by it. The actors and actresses, just gorgeous, beautiful Africans. It was it's historical. They talk about the Orisha, which was the indigenous African religious practices, spiritual practices. Man, I can't say enough about it. It's easily now one of my favorite movies. Besoro. You can find it again on YouTube, Netflix. If you look for the English version, it's going to be called The Assailant. Don't know why they chose that name. Besoro in Portuguese is actually translated to beetle. So it's like a black beetle. And that's the name Besoro. But that's what that Besoro means. But the word, if you look for the movie in English, is called The Assailant. The Assailant. You can find that. And Chris, you were just talking about a documentary you were watching yesterday,
Right.
on Netflix regarding Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
Share with us a little bit about that, brother.
Well, yeah, man. This is a documentary on Netflix. It's called Flint Town, and it kind of goes back into the history of when Flint, Michigan was really, you know, a booming town, and you know, it shows the black community and the white community and things like that. And it actually kind of, and what it did is to show the way that the town was prospering and how it was good and how the town was doing well. But it also it showed how the town began to decay, you know, as far as jobs and also, you know, the police force, it was understaffed and a whole lot of different variations, man, and how the neighborhoods began to kind of go, you know, down, and it began to show a lot of the disparities and whatnot, man. But it's an interesting show, and like I said, I just started watching last night, but I intend on, you know, trying to watch the whole series, man. I think there's about 5 or 6 different, you know, little clips or whatnot. It's about half an hour long or so, but it's interesting.
Right on. I'm gonna look for that because I very much would be interested in getting a. I just got. Yeah, you're definitely working out some technical glitches here, man. I know, right? You know, just keep your vibe off the bike. Yeah, so definitely gonna look for that because I'm very much interested in finding out more about what's happening in Flint.
Yeah.
We do know that they have been supposedly the water situation has been taken care of, but there are still reports that people are getting sick from the water.
Yeah, breaking out, man.
Skin diseases. It's incredible what they're reporting is still occurring.
Yeah.
Like it hasn't went away.
You know, the funny part about it is I have a family member that lives in Detroit, and I did not know until I actually asked. Well, I knew he was there, but didn't ask him. I asked him about the water.
Mm-hmm.
And man, he told me, he said, man, we've been drinking bottled water for years. Wow. I'm like, so you don't even really drink the water? Wow. He said, no, not really. We drink. I'm like, so how do you take baths? He said, we take regular baths. I'm like, but he said, man, we've been drinking bottled water for years. I'm like, really? Yeah. You know, can you imagine living somewhere, brother, and you can't even drink the tap water, you know what I'm saying, with a filter or whatever the case, however you drink water outside tap, whatever. But then I began to think about it, I was like, well, wait a minute. You know, whether you drink bottled water or whatever, when you take a shower, your largest organ is your skin. So when you take a shower or you submerge your body into that water, when you sitting there and your pores begin to open up, whether you drink bottled water or not, you're getting that.
You're getting that water.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
you're gonna get that work.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's that right there. And then once your pores begin to close after your body dries, you sealing that stuff in.
You drink it.
Man.
You drink it.
Didn't know
that. I don't think that we understand how crucial the water. In fact, I spoke with a very, very very, very intelligent brother.
Mm-hmm.
And what he told me was that one of the first things you want to do if you're talking about fixing your health, one of the first things, get you a water filter.
Yeah.
He didn't even ask me where I live. He didn't even ask me where I live.
Right.
He just said, you know, you need to make sure your water is clean. Not only the water you drink. Am I still? Okay, I don't have anything. I don't hear anything either. Sounds like my mic. There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, the first thing you want to do when you talk about fixing your health is you need to clean your water up. That means the water you bathe with, the water you drink, needs to be clean. If you can't get a whole house filter, and we're talking about investments, and we have been bamboozled into thinking that you can just take any water and put it in your body. You can drink. They've been telling us, you know, we've been drinking from the water fountain since we were in school. You know what I mean? Those dirty fountains that they don't ever clean. Kids are getting sick from. The filters never change. We have been programmed to take in dirty water. And we have not even been. We think because we're not drinking out of a puddle in the middle of East India that we safe. And that we are not being exposed to the chemicals.
You know what I was thinking about when you're talking? You know, our house used to, we used to get a lot of, have to get Roto-Rooter out and whatnot. And they came in and they said it was, was it diapers or something, or baby wipes, a lot of baby wipes that was running through this before we had a little, you know, a baby. And what we found out was there's a nursing home up on the corner of the block, and they've been flushing the baby wipes. Well, as the street goes down, the baby wipe stuff clog up because so many, you know, and you know, I just having to get Roto-Rooter to unclog this stuff. Now, how much of that water or that whatever the case may be coming back up through the water? You know, that's interesting, man. You know,
we're not really asking the right questions for the most part.
No,
when it comes to our water, we are under the impression that that's something we cannot think about. Man. Hey, you know, fluoride, lead. Now, just FYI, if you didn't know what lead poisoning does, one of the most pronounced signs of lead poisoning is aggravated behavior. Did you know that? I didn't know that either.
I didn't either.
People will actually show themselves to be more physically aggressive when suffering under the effects of lead poisoning.
Gotcha.
So just think about what that means about the conduct of people in certain areas that have high levels of lead. Think about that. Think about what this means for the children in school. Think about what this means for the brothers and sisters in the neighborhood who are already under extreme stress. That's what I'm saying. I said this is a setup.
I mean, listen, I connected dots.
It was a setup.
When you said aggression, I instantly began my wheels started turning. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're on point. This is what I said. This is a setup, and we're not talking about that. We're not. So you know, oh, black people are mean, and we're all angry, and we're all, you know, we're aggressive, and we shoot each other down. Hey, but check out the water supplies. Check out East Kansas. Look at a map of brownfields in East Kansas City. Brownfields are an area considered by the EPA to have pollution, that they need to be cleaned up. They have some form of contamination from some either heavy metal or chemical. Look at all the brownfields that plaster the map of East Kansas City. You can go online and see these things. Contaminated areas, like for example, the corner of 45th and there's an empty lot on the corner of 45th and Prospect.
Okay, that's
a brownfield.
Okay,
that's the government has said that piece of land is contaminated. You can't do anything with that dirt in that land. Okay. There's also brownfields all over the Leeds district area, all through the neighborhoods.
That's over by that gas station, not too far from Brush Creek.
Thank you. Right not far from Brush. There's there's brownfields along Brush Creek, all up and down. Hey, but go to the west side of Truth. Go to those neighborhoods over there. They're clean as a whistle. You could plant corn and pull it out and eat there.
You know what? I was running my route, man, and I get off every day at around like 29th and 71. I go down and I come back up, hit 31st Street.
Okay.
And over to the left under this bridge, there's like this big old pile of trash. This has been there for about a week or so. And I've been meaning to call and say, hey, man, but I see that they've been cutting the grass, so they're probably, you know, cleaning it up and putting it over there. But I'm like, man, that's been there for a week. Wow. How's that still there? I said, well, maybe there's a process. Maybe they got somebody coming out and supposed to pick all that stuff up. But, you know, you just said, you know, as you talked about the comparison from the left to the right of Truth, man, is interesting. Like we're having a conversation. We're talking about how Truth You know how they're changing the name for and this is kind of off subject, but
Mm.
how they were changing the name of Paseo to Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. You know,
Mm.
and my thoughts was, I don't agree with that. I mean, and this is just me personally. I think it should be truce, and I'll give you the reason why. I think personally, I think it should be truce. And the reason why is because truce has always been, quote unquote, the divide. Now, if you want to pull a city together, what person in history, or there's a few, but what person in history, man, that we know that actually tried to pull people together was Dr. Martin Luther King. He tried to break that racial divide, So why wouldn't use truce as that particular staple to change the name of truce to Dr. King? And I mean, because if you go through truce from north pretty much all the way to south, there's businesses all the way up. But if you go down Paseo, you got residential. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? So and I don't know, man. That's just kind of my thought on that. Why wouldn't you change the city that's all the street that's always kind of had, for lack of better words, a black eye,
Mhm.
in the city, and why not try to change that, man, and change that street if you're going to use it as a positive change, as a point to using Dr. King to make that change.
That's a very interesting point. I believe that is that cosmetic change, because there's MLK streets all over the country.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In fact, in Houston, they call MLK, and I've heard white people make this joke before. Most likely killed Avenue, MLK Avenue. I've heard that joke before.
Yeah.
So the areas which generally are around and surround, I know Dallas.
Yeah.
I know Houston.
Yeah.
I've been to the MLK on both of those. They're generally put in neighborhoods that white people don't want to live.
Atlanta.
And they let these areas
There's one in Atlanta.
And these areas that bear his name are usually pretty trashy areas, run down areas.
Yeah.
They're kept that way. The white people who are in control of local and city government continue to neglect these areas, but give it a pretty name.
Yeah.
So I am of the mindset. I would rather we not have a street named after MLK as much as have people stop practicing racism, stop the practice of redlining, which is still not ended.
Indeed.
It just evolved. Those are things we could do.
Yeah.
Stop discriminating Black housing.
Yeah.
Essentially, white people need to stop being white in order for us to live in peace. This is true.
Yeah.
We're looking at, I mean, you could be talking about gentrification, whatever you want to talk about. It's not Black people are doing anything. This is not something Black people are doing to ourselves. This is the continued practice of racism.
Yeah.
So don't name a street.
Yeah.
Stop arresting.
Yeah.
Stop issuing more city tickets in the 64130 zip code than any other place in the city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or on street, like stop making those. Stop making all your municipal court fines off of Black people in poor neighborhoods.
So basically, what you're saying is don't just put a good name on it. We'll go ahead and get to the root of the problem. Quit messing around.
Now, honestly, for all of our erudite, very smart listeners out there, does that sound illogical? And I think most people would agree that doesn't sound. But the honest truth is, will they likely stop? Probably not. Yeah, and this is why we are forced to recognize, in my opinion, just the straight futility of working with these local state governments, regardless of how many Black characters, mayors, sheriffs are on the force, to say that all of a sudden, these white people are going to change their minds and stop doing what their great-grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers did, which was harm Black people the most subtle, insidious way possible. And the MLK street deal is just another way of doing that.
Yeah, and you gotta look at it like this, though, man. I mean, when you live in your neighborhood, man, you just want to live. You want to live, whether it be, altercations with neighbors, whether it be, brothers on the porch drinking, whether it be whatever it is, man, you just want to live. Don't harass me. Don't bother me.
Yeah.
Let me stand in the middle of the street and play basketball if I want to, all night long if I want to. Just let me live. Don't come through here, as I was growing up with the cops, man, coming through, flash your lights or tell everybody get out the way or whatever the case, and it's just like, and that's, I had a conversation with my wife, we were talking about it, and I was like, I said, to be honest with you, it's like, it's like, it's like I pay rent, years ago. I pay rent here at this place. We sit out on this porch, we go over to this porch, we play basketball right here, we barbecue right here, and then you got somebody to come through your block that don't even live in your neighborhood, tell you what to do in your neighborhood where you live. You know what I'm saying? Whoever it is. You're like, well, wait a minute. I sleep, eat, poop. I mean, everything. This is my life. And then for you to come over here and tell me to do something contrary to what I do, and I ain't bothering you. And that's the whole thing. Because, I'm like, blacks don't go to white neighborhoods for the most part and rather them. You know what I'm saying? Basically, we try to stay out for the most part, stay out of white people's neighborhood, man. If we have our communities, we embrace our community, we love our communities, and we try to make our communities, strive to be the best.
That is a hallmark and really a good area for us to kind of wrap up on today, is that the condition of African people, black people in this part of the world is a continued state of harassment by the most vicious psychological terror and physical terror campaign the earth has ever seen. We see a lot of videos online of these quote unquote viral videos, which that name to me just is unsettling. Right. These videos of people being accosted because they're black, terrorizing their own neighborhoods, students at Yale, people in Oakland. This is across the length and breadth of the country. Of course, the famous Starbucks, Waffle House for days.
Yo, did you see the barbecue situation, man?
In
Oakland.
I've seen some of the barbecue situation.
Yeah.
Which to me, and I'll say this. Hey, I love black people, but I will say this, and I'll put this out there. Yeah. This is where black people are at in 2018. That we are terrorized by one single white woman, and our response to it is to next weekend throw a big barbecue and throw a party.
Right.
So that is the mentality of African peoples. See, Dr. Amos Wilson said that we have to be sick, mentally sick and out of our minds to continue to live under this situation. And we are playing games with the people who seek to destroy us and wipe us off the planet. So we think that, we're being petty, we're being cute because we want to go and throw a barbecue at the park. Yeah. You see, when white people are terrorized by black people, or there's an attempt to terrorize white people by black people, they come down in force. Okay. They don't throw a barbecue at the park the next weekend. Okay. They make sure that somebody ends up in prison for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that African people stop asking and begging people who have no plans to give you anything but more hell until the last day you live on this planet.
And also, I think oftentimes, man, is when we're faced with these disparities, it's like, how do you react? You know what I'm saying? When you do have a police officer that shoots down a brother 16, 17 times back, and everybody sees it on videotape, and then he gets off. Or you do have, as in this case up in Oakland, the white lady that called the cops on the people for barbecue, you know what I'm saying? And and when the cop got there, she's crying and snuffing and snot and whatever, I mean, it's like oftentimes you're like, man, how do you respond to that? Because whether we respond to tear up a city as happened in Ferguson, or whether we respond in peaceful or whatever the case with the Eric Gardner, they laid on the ground, they say, or I can't breathe or whatnot. You got one extreme to the next. You know what I'm saying? How do you effectively respond to whether people say, you know what, don't go to Starbucks, but boycott Starbucks, or don't go here. It's just like, people don't understand, like, well, how do we respond to this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right on. And that's a real good note to think about for us to end on, really think of how we respond. And I want to end with a few quotes for today. This is going to be our prayers in the form of quotes. One of these quotes, a lot of positive information and for black people, for African people worldwide, can be found on our website called abibitumi.com. Abibitumi Casa, ABIBITUMI.com. Abibitumi.com. It's a Ghanaian base brother who is a group of brothers and sisters who have put together an incredible site. I love it, and it's full of positive information. I don't go spend my day on Facebook because I'm tired of seeing black people being abused. I know that's occurring. A lot of people complain and say they want to see solutions. Well, stop watching things that are not solutionary. making Mark Zuckerberg rich every second you scroll down Facebook is not going to help in the problem of white world terrorism. So if you're going to use these websites, use them for information and get that and get off of them. abibitumi.com, Abibitumi Casa are websites that are solutions to the problem of global white European terrorism. We must support these websites. And this is a quote that I found on this site I want to share with the listeners. White supremacy got most blacks afraid to support anything black. They got you believing you are racist for supporting you and your people. Self-preservation is common sense. Race pride is not racism. Embrace you and yours. Another quote I want to share with everyone. All of our great leaders have warned us of the threat of white society's psychological warfare system. This quote is from MLK. As long as the mind is enslaved, the body can never be free. The white man's propaganda has made him the master and everyone else his slave. That was from the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. The white media will have you hating your own and loving them. That's nothing but our brother Malcolm X. And Steve Biko, the great black consciousness leader of South Africa, was quoted as saying, the oppressor's greatest weapon is the mind of the oppressed. So African people, as we leave you today, we want to leave you with those thoughts to protect your mind and your body, because the war against us is not only physical, but psychological. And we are at the point, the brink of losing this great conflict. But yet, brothers, I believe that we are capable of pulling out a win. We are not Team L, we are Team Win. We are not Africans, we are Africans. We are the people of the sun, the children of the sun, and the mothers and fathers of this planet were put here first by the Creator to do that same purpose, but lead the world, because we are the only ones who know what real truth is. On that, we want to thank everybody for tuning into the program. We hope that you found it very constructive. We will be back next week with another hard-hitting hour of Black and African information.